Hello there, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for having me today. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here, getting to talk to you. My wife was born in Sun Prairie, so that's like just northeast of Madison, and we spend a lot of time here. We love the city, and we've got, some people even here that, family, friends, and we've just really love Madison a lot. And so it's an honor and a privilege to be able to preach here and to share God's word with you today. The text is going to be Matthew 2, 13 through 23. And so if you'll turn with me now in the Bible in front of you, if that's one you're using, it's going to be on page 1470. So again, Matthew 2, 13 through 23. And it's on page 1470. So I'm going to read aloud, and you can just go ahead and follow along with me. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said. Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I will call my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious. He gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity, who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more." After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in dream to Joseph in Egypt. And said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who are trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. And when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. So, the text is Matthew 2, 13 through 23, and I think this text is all about God's good plan, right? It's hard to see, and there's a lot to work through in all of this, but I think this text is all about God's good plan. Cecily, my wife, was born and raised, like I said, in Sun Prairie, and I was actually born just southwest of Madison, in Arizona, just southwest by like 1,700 miles, And we dated long distance for like quite some time. We dated long distance for over 3 years, and we talked a lot. And we talked. Like, dating long distance is all about talking. One thing we loved talking about around the holidays was Christmas movies that we really liked. You have like that Christmas movie that you have to watch. For me, that movie has always been Home Alone. I loved watching Kevin set up like all those like goofy traps for the burglars, Harry and Marv, and basically guiding them through the house, and they end up with their irons getting hit on their head and like getting shot by a BB gun. One of them gets their head lit on fire. They step on nails and ornaments. It's hilarious to watch. But I mean, if you really think about it, like, these burglars, like, they're coming in to invade the home and like rob the place. They're like fiercely opposing Kevin. They're really upset at him, right? Kevin has a good plan though. He carries out the plan even amidst fierce opposition. And you can see here that there's some fierce opposition, right, to God's plan. Now, he's not going to set up booby traps to catch Herod, right? That's not what I'm trying to say. But I mean, what he does is he protects Jesus very carefully, meticulously. He protects Jesus, and he has a very, very good plan in mind. And so I think the main point of this text that I want to get across today is this. I want us to walk away with this in our mind. Know that God can complete the plan of salvation he has begun, even when the opposition is fierce. Like I said, the opposition here is fierce. And in our lives, we see fierce opposition, right? Like, whether it's to Christianity itself and terrorist regimes like ISIS or others, or whether it's, maybe like one political side or another we think is right, like there always seems to be some sort of opposition. There's murders, there's famine, there's plagues. I mean, humanity seems to have some fierce opposition, right, to flourishing, basically. But we don't have to worry about that, because I want us to walk away. I want us to walk away knowing that God can complete the plan of salvation he has begun, even when the opposition is fierce. Now, before we talk about the text, Matthew 2:13 through 23, I kind of want to talk about how Matthew works as a book. You guys probably already know it, but just as a refresher, I'm going to talk about Back to the Future. I know it's 2 movie references in a row, but just bear with me here. Okay, so Back to the Future 2, if you remember, it was just October 21st, 2015. That was the date entered into the DeLorean, right? And so naturally, I just actually watched Back to the Future 2. And in it, somehow this guy named Biff, he's sort of the bad guy, he gets a hold of an almanac. And an almanac tells the results of all of the sporting events from 1950 to 2000, right? So Biff gets this almanac, he steals the time machine, and then he goes back into the past where his young high school self is. And he gives his young high school self in 1955 an almanac containing all of the results for the sporting events from 1950 to 2000. Are you following? Does that make sense? So he gets this book, and he's really reluctant at first to use it. I'm just going to trust some guy who came up randomly giving me a book and claiming that he knows all of the results for all of the sporting events from 1950 to 2000. Verses 13 through 15. God knows the plans of those who oppose him. Now, why should this encourage us? Well, imagine World War II, right? USA and Germany are kind of going at it, and USA somehow gathers information on all of the military plans of Germany, literally everything. The US knows everything that Germany is going to do. It's not hard to see why that would be an advantage, right? In the same way, God knows the plans of those who oppose him. And we see that right away. Right, here's the text. We see that right away, right here. God, speaking through an angel to Joseph, says, "For Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." That's Herod's plan. God knows Herod's plan. Very, very crystal clearly, God knows Herod's plan. Now, I think that it's important to know that God isn't afraid of this, God isn't threatened by it, and God isn't worried about it, but he does know it. Herod does have a plan, and God clearly does know it. So now I want to turn to because it's like an act, or it's like a play, and Act 1 has 2 main characters, Herod and Joseph, we see. So now I want to turn to Joseph. We see that Joseph took the child and searched for the child, and he took the child again, right? Do you notice that it's not his child? Jesus isn't his child. That strikes me as odd because, right, Joseph is the father of Jesus, but he's not in a very, very important way. In fact, Matthew goes out of his way to say the child, not his child. Well, whose child is he? Well, we see that even. Out of Egypt, what does God say? I called at the bottom there, my son. So, Jesus is definitely a human child in a lot of ways, but he's also clearly something special and divine. This quote from Hosea 11:1 tells us that Jesus is the Son of God, but also is identifying Jesus as Israel. And I think that's something super important that Matthew is saying. That's like the big picture narrative. That's the big picture prophecy that Matthew is trying to say. So here's some ways that Hosea 11:1 and others show us that Israel is the same as Jesus in some way, that Jesus is being identified with Israel. First, the Hosea quote kind of clues us in that Matthew's trying to say that, right? But if you think about Jesus' early life and Israel's early life, they mimic each other, right? Jesus and Israel both were born in the land, right? Then they were brought out of the land and into Egypt for good reasons, and they were both called out of Egypt back into the land, right? Matthew's saying, like, guess what? The whole story of Jesus is the story of Israel. Jesus is fulfilling the story of Israel. Jesus is the Son of God, the one that's being waited for, the story of Israel's fulfillment. So in a big way, this text is trying to claim that Jesus is Israel. Now, he's the focal point of salvation, right? He's the plan. And what is Herod trying to do to the very plan of salvation?